This is the fourth of four videos in which I will be covering in greater depth the core aspects of the game that I hope to develop with fundraising. The fundraiser will kick off in November 1st on Kickstarter. I will provide links and everything, and hopefully, we can drum up some support over the next month so that the Kickstarter can go smoothly. I hope that by the end of this video series of indeterminate length, you will be convinced in my ability to do this. You will be persuaded that this is a thing worth doing, and that you will be excited and interested in sharing these videos, this game, this fundraiser, and this project with others. If I can't convince you, then so be it. Um, I don't. I am a pragmatist, among other things, and if I can't convince you, then don't let me hold you back from being yourself and doing your own thing. There's lots of games out there. You don't have to play mine. Let's get to the slide. All right. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about is something very near and dear to my heart, and that is death. In particular, how death puts life and gameplay into a different perspective. And what I have here are three types of game loops, not the loop, not the gameplay loop, not what you do when you play the game, but the game itself. And I'm putting the ideal up here at the top. This is the dream, the forever game, which is just play. It is the immersive role-playing game that has no beginning and no end. It's just play. Maybe it's an unrealistic ideal, but I wanted to start from the point of something that is completely unreal in order to talk about a few of the basic types and some of their elements and how they function as loops. So in here, in the middle, we have the midway. This is the arcade game, and incidentally, this is how most games, period, are constructed. And you might think, well, what does a shooting gallery have to do with Dark Souls? And the answer is pretty much the same. The game has a start. Insert a coin, create a character, choose a level, play, then win or lose, the game is over. You can then choose to start again. That's how RPGs go. That is how solitaire plays. That's how you play bingo. It's how you play Go. It's how you play chess. There's the starting condition. With board games, it's often the setup, the first move, character creation, or insert a quarter to start. Now, moving away from this general concept, you have much more long-term types of games where death is unacceptable. You can't give the player a game over necessarily because of the time investment. And in my perspective, having played MMOs for 20 odd years, this is how MMOs tend to play. You have a starting, and that's going to be your character creation, whether it's race, class, starting zone, or whatever, and then you play. And death may be a setback, but ultimately, you just keep playing until you stop playing. Maybe it's because the servers go offline. Maybe it's because the content updates stop happening. Maybe it's because there's too much bloat. Maybe all your friends leave. For whatever reason, you play until you don't anymore. And depending on how the game mixes things up, oftentimes you'll have a main character, your main tune. You might have some alts, and the main way to change up play is to start over. So you start, you play, then you restart, or you stop. And that's the loop. You start, you play, you start, you play, you start, you play, you continue play, you play, and then you stop. It's the loop is not one where one playthrough necessarily feeds into another. Yeah, sure, you can unlock stuff across your account, but if you unlock a new race and class and you can't respec, well, you're starting a new character. And yeah, you may get unlockables, you may buy upgrades or what have you, but this is the difference. The MMORPG is really different from a lot of the traditional styles of single player games, and indeed most games, in ways that I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand, because you can play continuously. In a lot of ways, an MMO has a lot in common with social networks, almost more than they have in common with games. Because with the Midway, you're looking at 2+ millennia of standard games. This is how gambling works. The Midway is how gambling works. It's how the oldest games of dice and cards work. You have some kind of initial setup. Deal me in 5 cards. Place your bets. You play, and then you win or lose. So let me give you how death interacts with the game in what I am proposing. Slide reveal. So, there is no winning and losing in Rogue Souls. Death is not the end. In fact, death is a choice. When your character dies, you are immediately presented with options. Do you play through the afterlife? Do you play to the end of your character's natural and supernatural existence? Do you retire the character and start a new one? Is death the end? Is it a new beginning? Is it just another way to play? And what is starting? Making a new character? Selecting from available characters? Let's say all you want to do all day is create new characters. Something I've long wondered is why character creation is often incorporated into the beginning of certain games. Because some people like to just make characters. Why do you have to start a new session of Skyrim just to play around with the character editor? Maybe you don't want to watch the intro every time you do it, and thank goodness you can skip it now. But in certain RPGs, most of them notably computer RPGs, you can actually create characters independently of playing the game. And maybe you can have and control multiple characters in some squad-based RPGs, which is a pretty niche genre. You can create and control multiple characters. An example would be, say, Final Fantasy 1, where you create your team of 4 characters. You can be 4 white mages, 4 black mages, 4 fighters, or balanced party. It's the approach of your more traditional tabletop role-playing game, where you have your players arrayed around the table with each one of them controlling 1 or more characters. What I want to do is use the MMO and the social network facsimile to create a game where every step or stage of the game is just part of the game. That there's no difference between starting and stopping. There's no difference between living and dying. There's no difference between playing. When you roll up a new character, it feels a lot of times like a beginning. But rolling up a new character can also be a kind of catharsis. It can be an ending. It can be the reincarnation of your long dead character. Maybe you don't want to play that character again. You just want to know that they have moved on and that they live again. Maybe you want to memorialize a dead character. Maybe you want to follow the same character through one adventure after another through the centuries or the generations, and you want to play that immortal hero. I want that to be an option. If you play an elf and you prescribe to Tolkien's nigh divine, angelic elves that live forever or effectively centuries or millennia, then I want that to be a thing. I want it to be playable. If your character's long life, that they can live for centuries or whatever, and remain in a youthful state, then I want that to be a component of gameplay. And yeah, you could fall in battle as an elf, and it's tragic, and your soul moves on like any human or dwarf or halfling, but your characters will age or appear to age more slowly than the more mortal races. Aging is a necessary component. Injuries and illnesses are necessary components. These all tie into the gameplay and the ways in which characters grow and change, and the way that they die and move on. Now, if the question is this going to be a survival RPG? Not really. See, because it's a fantasy game that's intended to be played by many players playing at once. If you ask me, can you asphyxiate in outer space? My answer is going to be if you run out of hit points. Can you drown underwater? If you run out of hit points. Can you starve to death? If you run out of hit points. Can you go insane if you run out of hit points? This is going to sound kind of repetitive, but the whole point of having a system like hit points is to abstract the process of your character being removed from play. If you run out of hit points, then you go in the penalty box. You are removed from play. Your piece is removed from the board. It's intended to be a transition from one game state to another. You don't need to track sanity. You don't need to track, all of these illnesses, disease, corruption of the soul. These are all character and game states that reflect changes. What happens if your character is struck by a curse while suffering from madness, while fighting off the plague, and you run out of hit points? Well, then you have a choose your own death. have a happy death. Do you want your character to succumb to the disease because it's part of your story? Do you want them to succumb to the curse? Do you want, some combinations of things will certainly be possible, but when your character ultimately falls, that will help determine the next step in their journey. Maybe they miraculously survive. Some things will be totally up to circumstances. Is your character a devout follower of a deity? maybe divine intervention comes and helps you. This is only possible when death is on the line, when death is a real, meaningful thing to your characters, and with a simple and comprehensive mechanic. Can you bleed to death? Yes, if you run out of hit points. That's the whole point of hit points. I don't feel like I should have to say this, but I'm gonna say it because that's why you have hit points. Everything else is effectively a character option or a game state. What's my class? I'm a wizard. What's my race? I'm an orc. Am I married? That's a game state. Am I cursed? That's a game state. Am I suffering arterial bleeding? That's a game state. How many hit points do I have? Is what determines between whether I'm alive or dead. Now, other important things to consider when we're talking about characters aging and suffering illness and infirmity and insanity and all these other things is that immortality is also on the table. Can your character live forever? And that is a question basically answered with another question, and that is, under what conditions? At what cost? Because undeath is an option. Is your character a zombie? Are they a ghoul? Are they a vampire, a lich? Are they a mummy? Have they been fully resurrected? Were they sent back? Are they a revenant? Undeath is a path to immortality, as are other magical means. And it's a big deal when someone or something obtains true immortality. Do you have the Philosopher's Stone? Can you artificially extend your life? Can you bathe in the blood of virgins in order to live and retain your youthful looks? In order to tell these kinds of stories in a fantasy setting, death has to be an option, whether you take it or not. It gives meaning to your character's life. And so that is why death is the number 4. That is why death is the 4th of 4 cornerstones in the core game that I'm developing. You have beliefs, you have death, you have souls, and you have the 4th one, which I'm always going to forget. I'll have to go back and watch my own video. I can't recall now what it was. It'll come back to me in the next one. I don't have my notes here. Damn it. All right. I'm going to do one more. I've covered each one of the 4 core things in a video now. I'm going to do one more summarizing using all of the information that I've discussed in this and the previous 3 videos in order to help summarize how all of these things play into each other. And I hope to see you in that very same video. And I hope to see you November 1st and all throughout the next 2 months as we prepare for this fundraiser, and let's hope we fund. Thank you for watching.